So here I am with longtime journalist and writer Karen Huba, who has contributed some of her work towards Money Magazine, Barron's, and the Wall Street Journal. And so I just have a few questions for you today to get the conversation going. So one of them is, what is the coolest interview that you've had so far in your career?
Oh, that's a good question. I've worked at both daily newspapers where you're interviewing and talking on a daily basis to the police, the local people who run businesses, and then also at the Wall Street Journal where you're interviewing people who are at the top of their fields, top investment strategists, and so forth. So I think I have competing best interviews, and one that is particularly memorable from a daily newspaper in Pennsylvania was talking to the director, the person who ran something called the annual Higgins Pigeon Shoot, where to raise money for their firehouses and their community. They shot live pigeons, and it was a very contentious situation, and there were a lot of animal rights people there at this very small farm community. And speaking to the director about his point of view about why this was okay to be shooting thousands of pigeons as a family event was very interesting to get that kind of point of view. That was one of them.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of flipping the side on that, what's the worst interview that you ever had and why?
It's also a good question. I think that I have to say generally that the worst kind of interviews that I've had are those that I've just quite simply been unprepared for. When talking about some complex financial issues at the Wall Street Journal, if I've felt rushed into an interview and I've had to speak to somebody who has very little time to speak to me in the first place, I have felt very back on my heels, not on my game. It's been embarrassing, and that has happened before, and those are not highlights of my career.
Would you say that you wish you had prepared more for those, or?
It's all about preparation. Yeah, that's a good question too. It's all about when you're interviewing, understanding who you're interviewing, what their background is, and what kind of information you're trying to get out of them, and understanding their subject enough to ask good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Though I will say that I do try to take the stance that there is not a stupid question. When,
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, as long as you've done your homework, it's okay to try to get educated in certain kinds of interviews as well, to pick experts' brains and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of speak more about the question idea. Have you found it to be easier later in your career to ask questions during an interview, or as you've gotten more used to the process?
Very much so. I've become more relaxed, and I've been able to speak with people with confidence as a professional to another professional. When I first went to the Wall Street Journal, I remember feeling intimidated. I was working with some of the best journalists on the planet, and covering subjects, some of them that were new to me. And so I was always nervous going into an interview. And now I'm never nervous going into an interview. It feels comfortable and relaxed, and that's from experience and greater knowledge.
And yeah, so being nervous is like one of the biggest issues in being a journalist. And so, do you think it's easier to do an interview over the phone, or does it not take away the nervous issue?
No, I think it just depends. I don't think nervousness is a part of the decision about whether to do or plays into it. I think for a feature story, where you're always looking for a colorful opening, and you're looking at maybe the person you're interviewing from, not just their quotes and comments, but also for who they are. It's good to sit in their office or have lunch with them to be able to pick up on their environment, their tastes, their quirks, and that always adds to a story. But for a straightforward story about an investing strategy or something like that, or a mutual fund portfolio that's managed by somebody, that can take place over by phone, and it's perfectly sufficient.
Yeah. So kind of going in a different direction. At any time during a project, have you had to scrap it because it's simply not interesting or it wasn't going anywhere?
Um, once I could call it a project. Not really. I'm stumbling here, but I go down avenues constantly with ideas that don't come to fruition. Chasing down ideas to try to confirm that they're good ideas or see if there's enough there to support a story is a constant, ongoing process. And in that sense, yeah, I have to scrap ideas or put them on hold until there's a new development in policy um, or the markets or the economy to revisit it. So there's a lot of setting aside of ideas. Uh, so
Yeah.
that happens, yeah.
Yeah. And so one final question. With newspapers slowly flowing out of our time and age, how do you see journalism being reflected in the future?
Um, well, I think in the near future with more of what we've got and online and less print. Even personally speaking, I've been a fast and true newspaper print reader. Love to get it in the mail. As of a few years ago, I have switched over. I read the New York Times online. I read everything online. That's just the way everybody's getting comfortable doing that. There are fewer and fewer people who demand that they actually hold the paper in their hands. So I think we're seeing more and more of that. I do think that because of the immediacy of getting information out and the prevalence of blogs and the big trend of movement of pointing at publications as putting out fake news, I think that is putting the onus on newspapers and magazines to really define themselves very clearly from a marketing standpoint so that people continue to have faith in them. So that's going to be an ongoing issue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. It's been nice talking to you, and I hope to talk again soon.
Thank you. It's been nice talking to you too.
Thank you.